Mr. Gobi, Mr. Bazira Mugisha, and Honorable Karuhanga, Happy New Year. Welcome to the show. You're on the spot, the three of you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you, Honorable Karuhanga, because on this case, as a member of parliament, you actually went to London to follow this case as a member of parliament. In fact, I was wondering why your name is not even on the list. But what did you go to do, and what was your take?
Well, in the wisdom of the speaker, she thought at the time it was very important to have one or two members of parliament go to London and follow through the proceedings. Now, at this time, what was pertaining was we have a case, Heritage versus Uganda, and Heritage is not interested, does not want to pay $434 million. A lot of money at stake. That's about a trillion Ugandan shillings. So there was a lot of worry in parliament everywhere that indeed money could exchange hands, bribes could exchange hands, and we lose this money. So in the wisdom of parliament, it was important through this process to make sure that indeed the right thing is done. So we go to London, and there is a protracted case, very well organized. The arbitration process begins. A very competent law firm is hired, and they do an amazing job. They argue the case so well. We follow through. The days pass. They are paid billions of shillings. The lawyers are paid.
$10 million.
Yes. About there, yes. Now, and we think we are happy because from actually the proceedings of this whole arbitration process, it was very clear we're going to win that case, because it was very simple that taxation world over is a sovereign preserve. It's a preserve of a given nation. So you can't say that any country, for instance, say Kenya should dictate over the taxes, or a company in Europe should dictate over taxes, or a taxation process or systems of a given country. So that was a brilliant argument. The other lawyers could not provide any adversarial authority. They didn't have it. So we left knowing we indeed would win that case. And thank God, when we came back, we got news, very good news, that Uganda had won the case, and we had $434 million.
Now, let me tell you this. A golden presidential handshake was sealed with the release of 6 billion shillings from the coffers to reward senior government officials or civil servants. This according to the letter from the URA boss, Doris Akol, who says it was premised on a philosophy to enable the beneficiaries to use the funds for something tangible. Honorable Karuhanga, you are a lawyer. Is this legal?
Well, I think this whole cash bonanza is exceedingly embarrassing. You pay lawyers who are hired after a process. They do an amazing job. You succeed at what you want to achieve. They are fully paid. Lots of money. Lots of money. And then all of a sudden you get public officials who earn monthly, whose duty is to do exactly what they were doing. And by the way, if we on one would even have urged and said, maybe if we had a more serious team, we didn't even need those other lawyers, but that will leave that to the circumstances of the case. Now, and then all of a sudden you get 6 billion shillings and say, oh, you have this as a bonanza, you have it as a token. In the first place, when you read what exactly you've just alluded to, Patrick, why would you, if it was a token, you see the letter is trying to persuade the president that, look, we did so much, we deserve a token, we could buy maybe how we could buy land or finish a house, and this will be in remembrance of our contribution. You could see that it's so unbecoming. Somebody was busy working on a process to basically squeeze as much as they can from the very poor taxpayers.
Let me turn to Mr. Bazira Mugisha here. If I'm a civil servant and I'm a beneficiary, this golden handshake has been approved by the Attorney General, by the Auditor General. At least, doesn't this protect them as civil servants?
Patrick, my opinion, I want to present it in two fronts. One is that it is okay to reward public servants for something well done, or something good that they have done for the nation. Rewarding of citizens and servants is okay, but it has to be on the basis of a criteria. It must be publicly known that if you achieve this, this is the kind of reward you would expect. So, the reward to public servants is not wrong in itself. It is the manner and process in which the reward was made. I want to go back to what Karwanga has just talked about. He said you have hired lawyers, they have done their job, they have been duly paid and served their purpose. Case closed. Why then do you go to spend more money to aggrandize people who are side workers, onlookers, and probably people that was facilitating the process of getting the lawyers actually to do their job? So the payment, this was to me more of a double payment. I also want to look at it on another perspective, that we have an institution and a process in which government must appropriate public or taxpayers' money. URA, as an institution, and the law provides for it, is a collector of government revenue. And finally, it transfers that money to the consolidated fund, from where government appropriates money with the support or the approval of Parliament. Here is an institution whose mandate is twisted for an event, for the purposes of fulfilling a one-off event to pay public servants, many of whom do not even fall in the docket of URA salary structure. So URA turns to be, all of a sudden turns to be, that takes over the role of the consolidated fund. Yet it should have transferred the money to the consolidated fund, and money is appropriated from there through the budgetary process. And even to call it a supplementary for URA, to me, is an erroneous procedure, because and then the Anthony Johnny goes, we are going to deal with this posthumously, to me is an embarrassment. Yes, we know that there are some expenditures that may happen outside the financial year and can be dealt with after that financial year, but they will be treated as expenditures of the subsequent financial year. But the payments were actually done in the previous year. So now, for me, it's erroneous.
It's erroneous. In her own words, at least what I've read, Akol says the amount should be spent to leave a legacy, to remind them and their offspring of their contribution to the nation. For instance, the recommended amount could enable one to either acquire a decent plot of land, pay a deposit on a mortgage, or perhaps facilitate finishing a home. Let me play the devil's advocate here, Mr. Ramadan Govi. If they have done something so significant, colossal sums of money have been saved, why shouldn't they be rewarded?
Thank you, Patrick, and I think the panelists have been quite very eloquent on this. You know, there are so many public servants this country has. They are, for example, our military heroes, you know. Those guys in the military uniform have done wonderful work over the years, right from the time when they were in the bush. They pacified the entire country.
Including prisons.
They have been given some medals. I haven't had any who has gotten home with, you know, millions of shillings. They are policemen who are every day doing some, you know, wonderful work to keep us safe in this country and to keep land order. There are various other people who have done, you know, a lot of work
teachers, doctors,
for the country. Yes, the teachers, the medical workers who are saving lives of Ugandans every day. So if Madam Akol wants to convince us that, you know.
So are you suggesting the golden handshake should be extended to all those you mentioned?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And then that will justify the
create a unified and elaborate kind of procedure.
Will then that make it right in Ramadan Govi?
No, I'm saying that when you look at it from whatever angle you look at it, it's really wrong for public money to be spent in that way.
Let me come back to you, Honorable Karhanga, because you're a legislator but also a lawyer. Because I began by asking whether this, in your view, was illegal. Somehow I didn't get the correct answer. Is this illegal?
Certainly it is.
And if it is illegal,
Yes.
why are they still holding public office? Because at least they have admitted that they received the money.
You know, Patrick, our country has real issues. The challenge that we see here is running a nation as if you are running a kiosk. Where you go, you buy your wheat, you prepare your mandazi, and these are the donors for the other listeners, viewers. And then, after making the donuts, you proceed, sell them yourself. When you are tired, you close and go home. It's a one-man business.
This is Uganda.
This is Uganda. There is no way a serious democracy where one cares about the interests of Ugandans, the challenges we've been facing, especially in the previous year, ranging from the Cancer Institute to Makerere University to how poor people are right now. You wake up and say, oh, because you were involved or you were close, you are in an office. Because when you read even the very letter you are referring to, they say COA and non-COA team members.
Support.
And support. So, and you say, okay, you have 260 million, you have 240, you have 200. And you are wondering. So, the access to our leader, the access to the president, should it be anywhere to receive?
One thing you did for Uganda and for Parliament, you're supposed to be our ear and our eyes in London. Let me ask, if these people went there, were they also being paid per diem or something like that?
Certainly obvious. By the way, can I also be very emphatic? Of those, I think there are about 42. Those who were in London were probably less than 10. Because we were actually a much smaller team from Uganda. So, I was surprised. Their names I've never heard about. I've been around and following the oil sector quite closely. There are several names I've never seen anywhere.
Really?
And you wonder, because that means somebody must have sat down and said, oh, this is a colleague. This is one of us. Let them be part of this. And so then you include the name, and then they receive millions and hundreds of millions of shillings.
Mr. Bazira Magisha, many people have talked about, including the IGP the other day, that is a kind of mafia group in the country, some kind of a cabal that is bent on, really sucking out. Does this really show us that there could be a cabal, an organized group that is just bent on looting public resources?
I read that story with amazement, because coming from the IGP, who is the head of security, at least from the police's perspective, who is supposed to be keeping law and order, for him to admit that while in his tenure he has seen and is aware of a cabal or mafia group, and it goes on unprecedented and prevented, to me is an undoing to himself. And if it was elsewhere, probably he would resign. And unfortunately, those things happen only in Uganda, where people fail to do their job and still maintain their jobs. So if I was him, I'd probably resign, because for failing to do his job. If he's doing a good job in investigation, he should be knowing these people. By the time he talks about them, then he probably is aware of them. I don't think there's anybody above the law, even including the president. So they should have taken up steps to bring them to book and bring them to light. If our institutions, especially the judiciary, is to go by its name, this is a time when they would actually show themselves to stand tall and bring justice to this country. So for me, whether it is there, I think it is created by the very same people that are talking about it.
So, okay, let's return to this case, Mr. Ramadan Gobi. Really, I would think the president has the powers, the executive powers, to give that golden handshake, and he normally does. And if it is authorized as well by the Auditor General and the Attorney General, I mean, it makes it more like real.
Patrick,
an executive golden handshake.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I'm an economist. And in economics, we know that performance-based kind of incentives can be given to people, bonuses and so on. They are given.
This is it.
All over. But there is a certain procedure which is followed and criteria
known publicly
for you to go and say, for someone to get this, you must have done ABCD. Or if you are doing this kind of work, and these are the targets, if you hit the targets, you're going to get such bonuses. It works, I think, in the private sector very well.
It is publicly known.
But also even the public service. In many countries in the developed world, they are doing it. But they already have something in place to define who will get what
and how.
And how. In our case, it's quite different.
Selective.
And because there are so many people who have done a lot of things in this country before, and we have seen the president actually rewarding them, giving them a medal, Naruvale or some other medal, and nobody has ever come up to say, why you give? By the way, some of those medals have been given, so many of them, that at one time I started asking, are these medals really still meaningful? And
so okay, you bring up another issue, that should it have been better, Mr. Mugisha, that if the president had called these people maybe at independence grounds and say, let me award you the Naluvale, the Katonga Grandmaster, all these things have their name, the Kabalega medal, whatever it is, maybe that should have been the way?
But even that, it has a process by which it follows. It's not just an outright statement that the president makes that takes the day. There's a process that it follows for it to be realized. And so the point we've been making all along is that, yes, he has some power to give awards, and those awards, after he has issued them out, they must follow due process for them to be appropriated. So for us, it's not about whether Ugandans have been awarded. Actually, for me, when I look at the salaries of some of these officials and compare to the amount they are getting, when I look at the list in the newspaper, that is equivalent to a very small amount of their salaries. Some of the commissioners are earning 40 million. So 240 million Uganda shillings is probably like 5 months of their salary. So, and they can be salary awards. They can be bonuses for the year for good work done. But you see, it has to be done in a clear and acceptable manner. Because now, you see, and the other problem is, this is happening at a moment when there is a lot of animosity within the country. There is a lot of anger, hidden anger.
When the
economy is not doing very well, the inflations are going so high, people are not getting value for the money and the sales that they are making. People are hungry, there is starvation all over the country, and there are so many people whose awards, even court awards, compensation awards, have been issued out, but have ordered, but up to this day, they've taken years for them to be realized. And then for you to turn around at this particular moment and make such an allocation, wow, it sends up a big ripple. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the beginning of an uprising.
That's a big word, but we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's start from there. Does this divide the people of Uganda into a group of, there's them and us, those who are having and those who do not have anything? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Honorable Gerald Karuhanga, Mr. Bazira Mugisha, and Mr. Ramadan Govi. We're looking at the presidential handshake and the kind of uproar it has caused in Uganda in the last couple of hours, maybe 48 hours ever since this came to light. But now, you introduced something that this could actually cause a divide. How deep can this go, Honorable Gerald Karuhanga? How deep is this?
No, certainly it can go quite deep. You know, first of all, what message are you sending to Ugandans? That as long as you have a very important office, like Commissioner General of URA, as long as you can access the president and have indeed the golden handshake, you can actually access billions of shillings.
It's talking.
So, and that is where it's first of all, it's wrong, it's immoral, but it's also illegal. And that's why we are very clear We are going to challenge this in Parliament. It's going to be probably our first business next week. We are preparing a non-partisan motion because there is no way we can sit back and see. You know, it's one thing to see officials, public officials, abuse public resources, but it's another to do it with impunity. You know, there is a...
Where will Parliament get the moral stand? Do you talk about this when the other day you had decided to have your salaries not taxed at all?
Well...
You got your day when the rest of us are paying taxes, like heavily taxed. Where do you get the moral authority as Parliament?
Well, I must say that on that one, I have, honestly, actually have a different view. I have a different view. By the end of the day, well, it's a decision of the institution which we must all own. I think that Ugandans, as we must be treated equal, we must all pay taxes. And we thought...
yeah, but I'm saying the institution in which you serve has also its own moral question. You cannot be questioning the morality of others when you are the entity yourselves.
Well, whereas there is that position, I mean, there is that case. That's another issue altogether. And I think, honestly, we could have done better on that one. I still think we could still do better on that one. That doesn't remove the fact, doesn't make this right. It doesn't make corruption right. It doesn't make bribery right. It doesn't make abuse of public resources right. Because Parliament is not right. No. And it doesn't mean that there is nobody who should call the other to book because one has a mistake. I mean, for instance, we all say, oh, there is corruption in the judiciary. It doesn't mean judges are not going to sit and prosecute cases. Have cases, listen, hearing cases, and eventually have judgments, you know. So when cases are prosecuted in the judiciary, irrespective of what's going on, the judges eventually make their decisions. Now in Parliament, we think that this is unacceptable. The appropriation powers in our constitution are a preserve of Parliament. So for anyone to try, attempt to conduce themselves or galvanize some power and think they have now powers,
the Parliament.
Yes, that they will constitute themselves into a Parliament is completely unacceptable, and we are not going to let it lie low. There was an abuse of the appropriation law. There is an abuse of the Public Finance and Management Act. There is an abuse of the grand normal constitution. And so, if we begin a culture where people abuse public resources, and we have overwhelming evidence like in such a case, and nobody takes action, then we will be planting dangerous seeds that we will live to regret in a few, not even years, months to come.
Mr. Waziri, I saw the civil society the other year and the year before involved in so much in something they call the Black Monday movement, and of course trying to fight the graft and all that. Now, at one point, you are involved in sharpening at least the views of Ugandans and you know, creating a vibrant citizenry. What is going to be your take?
I think, let me just help Karuhanga, who is my brother here and a member of Parliament, is that as civil society, we are totally against even members of Parliament trying to exempt themselves from paying tax. That we have challenged, and that we've even petitioned the President. It's on record. And we are not yet about to relent on our intended actions. We are going to continue even pursuing Parliament. I think, for me, that even set the precedent, or rather, probably they learned from what had happened through these cases and other cases that have happened, that they too wanted to aggrandize themselves and apportion themselves money through the guise of the law, the tax exemption, which to us we think is incorrect. And in respect to the Black Monday, I would just want to inform you that
maybe I need to correct something.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
we are also part of a
it,
tax alliance, trying to even help Uganda government expand its tax. But what do we see? We see that the many taxpayers are actually the people who are nowhere to reach the high authorities, the president and the rest. As you can see, the case was clear. Someone, a commissioner, came from one institution, sweet-talked the president, and the president conceded. But we understand that it probably could have been triggered even by the president himself to have advised the commissioner call to trigger the process, and then the rest will fall in place. And so,
at least what we have is what we have read is purported later.
Well, they have had a meeting.
She's quoting a philosophy.
They have had a meeting in Rwakitula, and whatever transpired there, they know best. But our reading between the lines and what we see is that there was then the justification would look like this. Any other commissioner from any other ministry might as well go and say, here is our list of Ugandan citizens who have done so well for this country. They actually also deserve a golden handshake. And therefore we shall be waiting to see whether the president himself will fall head over heels to actually address such kind of demand the same way he has addressed this demand.
Okay.
And for me, the other last bit I want to talk about is the issue of, for me, it also puts into confirmation the President's words, my oil. The manner in which these monies are being appropriated from oil is a fulfillment of his statements that this is my oil, and therefore I can dispense of it as I wish.
You want to
go
very quickly?
Yeah, very quick. You know the impression that we should, Ugandans out there, you shouldn't get the impression that by actually this recent law that was passed over our moments in Parliament, that we're going to earn a little more. What was going to happen was actually there was going to be less earning if they had passed a law. If the law, for instance, if the law had not been passed. Now, it's true we pay taxes actually on our salaries. I pay about 5 million shillings as tax. Now, what actually was supposed to be done? We said, okay, you should pay a blanket tax. And whereas, yes, there were different views, the other argument was, okay, because there is a law that you can't revise also a public servant's earning downwards. So we thought that was probably a better option as opposed to say we pass a law exempting us. So, however, I think many times this is used as a diversion. I've seen this. There is a political propaganda approach in this country that every time there is something very crucial, you'll get something. Sometimes, actually, in most cases, I believe, is well orchestrated, well planned. But when you are releasing this, you also have this, and it's all shared in public domain, and it's shrouded in all sorts of covering other stories. But the truth is, Patrick, when we struggle every morning, and Ugandans really struggle to pay taxes, and you pay us as public servants, and you say, please have these resources, go and utilize them to make sure that we get better services. Then you have every duty, you have every obligation, you have every right to come to us and say, look, you didn't deserve this payment and we need our money back. And I think that's what is happening with this oil bonanza.
So we're going to start hashtag bring our money back.
Sure, why not?
Let me come to you, Ramadan. The Swahili palace for the president's term of office is Hakuna Michezo. Kisanja Hakuna Michezo, which means no games. Is this likely to be the litmus test for him now?
I think actually it's one of those bad days is likely to get and regret why he chose that very slogan, because to me it is now Chisanja Mchezo sana.
Mchezo kabisa.
Mchezo kabisa. You know, the president put himself, I think, in a situation where he is vulnerable to rent seeking. So many people have their way to State House to talk to him or to write to him, which I think is not under his own ambit to handle. Like now, this issue, why doesn't he ask the Commissioner General to maybe send that letter to Finance, and then the due process begins? You know, you go to Parliament and you see whether this can actually work that way. So I have a feeling that perhaps these people persuaded him to also reward themselves, having done something for him maybe, I don't know. Because how can you just write and you say 6 billion shillings should be shared amongst us, Your Excellency, give us a right, and the President says, please do. Yes. And another thing, you know, these public servants also should stop behaving like Wall Street. The other day I saw the Auditor General saying that, you know, this should be investigated and so on. Then today, I see in the letters that actually the Auditor General also looked through this and okayed the process. So it becomes very, very intriguing for some of us who are following up these things on a daily basis on why the country is being run that way. And I think this Sanja has started on a very bad note. It had somehow been given some benefit of doubt because of the way he has been working on Operation Wealth Creation and so on. And all of a sudden, these now debates are going to come
This is
back.
also Operation Wealth Creation for the other 42.
I don't know. I don't know whether it should be Operation
I don't know
Wealth
what
Creation
percentage that would be.
is that way, because Operation Wealth Creation is a very, you know, to me, a serious kind of operation which should be not mixed with the bonanzas like this. And
But
I wouldn't think that it is actually the right. But also, Patrick, even if I'm not a lawyer, you know, maybe Gerard will help us. There is this oath, official oath, which public servants, you know, take when they are taking over office. Somewhere, I think they talk of serving the nation, and in other words, theirs is a service to the nation. Now, when you start to solicit for a reward for the service to the nation, are you not breaking right away the oath you took? Plus other
Henry, there seems to be some kind of muted silence from institutions you should be listening or hearing from, like Inspector General of Government, like the Minister of Ethics and Integrity. And at one time, there's a judge who said that the fish begins to rot from the head. Could this really now presuppose that is what is happening? We are rotting from the head.
I think without mincing words, that's correct. And for me, without even feeling a regret about it, because if I look around some countries who have turned around their economies, the leadership has come from the head. And so if you see a country whose economy is crumbling, then you can only say the leadership has failed. We don't have to go very far. They may not be the best example, but Rwanda has shown us some good positive signs. I don't have to go beyond even East Africa. So unfortunately, maybe the problem with our leader, good as he may be, he probably is falling victim to the rent-seeking behavior that my colleague is talking about, and the quest for patronage buying. And these are all signs of a regime survival. For me, that's what I see. And it's unfortunate it's happening to Uganda, because now, even where we are after the election of 18 of last year, I'm not too sure whether we are in position to turn around this economy. I think the exchange rate is now 2,620 or something around there to the dollar. We've seen it rise from 1,500 to the dollar. It is now 3,500, 3,600, 3,600. And so we've seen the inflation go up by 2,000 times, meaning that the true value of our assets has depreciated more than 2,000 times. So people are definitely earning less value in terms of less value for the assets they trade. And so it is actually killing the economy. I don't even know how guys in the Bank of Uganda Finance are going to turn around this. It's going to take us. It's going to take a miracle.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the line so that you too, wherever you are, you can pick and tell us what you think. Make your submission, and when we come back, we'll also be looking into the issue of morale. How does this affect the morale of other public servants? I'm talking about the teachers, the medical doctors, our men and women in uniform. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara, and my guests tonight are Mr. Ramadan Gobi, who's an economist, Mr. Henry Mugisha Bazira, who is a civil society activist, and Honorable Gerard Karuhanga, Member of Parliament for Ntungamo Municipality. We're discussing the golden handshake, where civil servants were paid hundreds of millions of shillings for having won the case against the oil farms. But now, I promised that we will look into the issues of morale. For the other public servants, especially the teachers, the medical doctors, our men and women in uniform, when they see a lot of money is going to them and yet the other guy is taking a 250,000, and you stay in the same city, you shop from the same market, and you know probably you want also to go to the same schools, send your children to the same school, and if they are sick, the same hospital. The morale is down, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's very down. You know, when you go around, especially during the Christmas season, that's when you could see how the needy situation has become, how needed, how wanting, how pressing it has become. Because if even by just looking where you see very busy shops and in a festive season you see jovial mood and you see people are so low. It's like almost close to a funeral everywhere. So, and then all of a sudden you have a case like this, 6 billion shared. In fact, the truth is, we run on the knowledge or information gap that we have in this country. If majority of Ugandans, if the ordinary citizens would indeed get this information properly, and I think eventually now it's beginning to sieve through, then they would not sit back to allow this thing to go on. So those of us who have been lucky to have such information, we also have an obligation. And you see, when you call, sometimes when we speak out, when you call on individuals to account, people say it's persecution, and then they try to say, oh, you are opposing government, or no, what is right is right, what is wrong is wrong. When we are all going to put soup or look into a place, nobody sees a political color. When you go or you're looking for a job for yourself or your son or daughter, nobody cares whom you voted for. So ultimately we must stand up and say, principally, if individuals who are taxed, who are tasked and who are mandated, who ordinarily have every obligation to carry out the duties of a public servant, they betray this very cause, then we must say no, enough is enough.
Let me open the line so that you too can be a part of this. You can call the numbers which are on the screen and then give us your views. I'm going to take the very first caller online right now. Hello. Hello.
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from? And make it brief if you can, sir.
And this is Ayub. I wanted to put this simple to Honorable Karahan.
Yes.
Honorable, just remember how much money Ugandan teachers needed to top up their salary that consequently lead to be told to go to their goats. Do you still remember how much money the Makerere lecturers needed for incentives? Can you imagine? We had to have longer talks so that, you know, they're darling, but it was a question of money. They now compare the number 42, the number of students which were affected in Makerere Saga. 2, teachers of this nation that needed just a simple top-up, which they are crazy. I don't think it was up to those billions. So it's a question of priority. Are you good enough for this country? You teachers of Makerere and teachers of the primary schools of Uganda, are you good enough? Do you have a place in our country? You don't. Let us award these who have value, who we can, you know, rely on to protect our interests, blah, 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 blah. Are you good enough for this country?
Okay. You began by saying that the teachers really made their case, and at one point they were told to go and rear goats if they wanted to. And then you are comparing the problems of Makerere. Somehow I missed some of the words, but I hope Honorable Gerald Karuhanga picked or Ramadan or Henry. But let me take another caller online.
Hello?
Hello, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, I'm Julius, and I'm calling from Kampala.
Julius in Kampala, you're on air, sir. If you can make it very precise and concise.
Yes, nice to see Honorable Gerald, Professor, and the rest. Yes, precisely. Personally, I'm a public servant. Going back to the point you raised, this comes at the background of, first of all, discrepancy in remuneration there was a proposal for a remuneration commission. It has never come to fruition. And this level of impunity cannot be allowed to continue. Full stop. That.
Thank you. You put a full stop on that. what do I do? Let me take another caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Balala, Isingilo.
And what's your name, sir?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm okay. There's no such place like in Mbarara, Isingiro, I suppose. Either in Mbarara or in Isingiro. Where are you?
I'm Herbert.
Okay, Herbert. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in Mbarara right now.
Okay. The problem is that you are listening to yourself, so do not listen to any echo. Right away, go ahead and tell us what you want to say.
Okay. My comment is...
Keep going. But we had to drop that line because it was sending an echo. You had put your volume.
Hello?
Yes, hello, ma'am. Good evening, and what's your name?
Good evening. My name is Sarah.
Sarah, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Kampala.
Okay, go right ahead, Sarah.
So, me, I'm a clinical officer, and I earn 700,000, and I over 200 people every day. Those people should refund our money. It is too much.
Okay.
Stop.
You sealed it that way. 700 is what she earns. Sees 200 people every day. Somebody gets 200 million in a single handshake. Bring back our money. Let me take another caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from tonight?
I'm William,
Yes, William.
coming from Entebbe.
Entebbe, you're on the air, William.
Yeah. I think we are moving. Thank Honorable Karuhanga and members of civil servant. For us as Ugandan as Ugandans wananchi, we just moving in fog. We don't understand, because when you talk about, that billions of money being swindled in such a way, how can we trust the one who is holding our bag? Because if I call the revenue authority, how will they hold other money? How do you know that if they try to make to the president, then what of other areas that they don't report? If such a person can do such a thing, and for the doctors that have suffered, teachers have suffered, and so many civil servants that would need to be rewarded. For example, like the teachers, doctors who are dying at work, and that will be inherited. So many people will claim, okay, others were paid, and also for us we need that token. Where are we going? For God's sake.
Thank you very much. The question, where are we headed? For God's sake. I do not know even myself. I can't answer that question. Perhaps we need a divine answer. Some kind of an epiphany to come on everybody and give us what the answer should be. Let me take two more callers and then we can wrap it up in the studio here. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm called Robert in Kisasi.
Robert in Kisasi, you're on air, sir.
Yes. My comment is on the Auditor General.
Yes.
I think that the Auditor General's moral authority in this issue is really very lacking. And I also think that the Commissioner General has no integrity at all in her action.
Okay.
I wonder even how the employees below her now view her. Because this is an issue of integrity. She earns a salary, she is bound to live within that. I'm very sure that people at that level actually are even paid very big bonuses for their work. So we are very disappointed with that transaction.
All right. You've made your point very clear. So probably I should take the very last call. If my producer can just send me one. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening. Hello, sir.
Yes, hello, Patrick.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, I'm Ronald calling from Fort Portal. I have two issues. One
Yes, Ronald.
is what you sow is what you reap, the Bible says. So Ugandans have sown in electing this government in this period.
Are you saying
So-
we deserve it?
So we are harvesting on what we have sown. Then two, I want to inform Honorable Karuhanga that what Parliament has done is not different from this. So they are all mixed issues. Even the Parliament has a problem. So I'm wondering when they are going to follow up that issue when actually they have failed. They have already swindled our money in getting themselves off paying tax. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, a caller there from my hometown. Okay, what do you, how, I mean, you've, my producer says just want two more callers, but it looks like all the people are speaking in one voice. There's some kind of positive anger, and I have a call online. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Yes, you're on air. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Stella calling from Luzira.
Stella in Luzira, you're on air, madam.
Yes. Now, I have two issues here. The two issues are if the top people who have taken this money are adding themselves as very special, well-trained, they have received an appointment to do the work for the general public, and they are paid for it very well. And then in the end, they still want to benefit the taxpayers' money. And yet, when the ordinary people like teachers who have been regarded ordinary request for a little top-up, which people they have climbed on their shoulders, stood on their heads to come to the positions that they are in today, are very much disregarded. And then when they ask and they tell them to go and rear goats, who is going to be the next teacher for tomorrow, for somebody to climb on their shoulders, on their heads, to raise up to the top level of this nation? So where are our morals as citizens of this nation?
Thank you very much, Stella in Luzira. You also asked many questions. Where are our morals? Who is going to raise the next generation of teachers or public servants and all that? And so the questions we're going to be asked, I'm sure the discussion is even going to continue in different forums, and my producer saying I'm taking the very last caller online. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Andrew Chambila. I'm calling from Bujiri.
From?
Bujiri.
Bujiri, you're on air, Andrew.
As a lawyer,
yes.
I'm myself a lawyer,
yes.
Let a call do the honorable thing by resigning. And the rest of the officials, whoever ate that money, resign for more authority to prevail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, I have never had a show where it appears the callers seem to be unanimous in one side.
Democracy.
And, well, I think we're going to hear a lot. And this discussion may continue. But your response or your view, if you may, about what you've had. I don't know, Ramadan.
I think the people, out there have already heard this and have spoken. And it's quite clear, really. We are beginning, this case has come at a very critical point. First, as a country that is aspiring to become an oil-producing country,
a middle economy, 2020,
and also going forward to become a middle-income economy. But first, for the oil, there is what we have as economists been warning government about, cautioning it to avoid the problem of Dutch disease.
This kind of thrift spending,
where you spend thriftlessly, especially money which is coming from the resource itself. Many countries which have oil resources have suffered this.
Which is finite.
And we thought we were going to escape this because of the various things, these guys have been doing, and the government itself has been a bit transparent, trying to do things differently. And it's an unfortunate kind of incident which should be corrected, in my view. Whoever, like that gentleman who called you last, I think these people should really return this money to the government coffers, and I think whoever initiated it need to be punished for that, because rent seeking is a very serious crime in especially government itself, and that also comes in a way that there is regulatory capture. Now I can't trust who regulates who in this case. Who is likely to rate? Because now you are hearing Parliament, it sort of is being questioned because of what they have been doing. The judiciary has issues. The executive is already rotten, and this has been for years. So it comes at a time when we needed it to reflect, on a number of things and correct them. And I think the right thing to be done right now by the president and his people is to correct this by getting this money back and apologize to Ugandans. For the first time, that would work, I think, in my view.
You're parting short, Henry.
Our president has called this year the year of the family. And he has blamed the problem of our youth, the lack of ethics, the lack of guidance to the family. The nation is synonymous to a family, with the president as the head. So while he's finger pointing to the small families that make the nation, you should also look at him as the head of this big family, to provide guidance and leadership on how this family called Uganda must go forward, what kind of moral ethics we must enshrine in our society. You have children who are going through university, and the next thing they want to do next year is to become a multi-millionaire, hook or crook. There are people who have served this country and have lived up to their 70s and have never earned some of the money that our young men are earning in a very short period of time. So we need guidance from the leadership. And for me, if we fail in this so-called Kisanja Akuna Muchezo, it will be a reversal of that very statement and an embarrassment to this regime that is going to take us up to 2021, inshallah. And so, for me, my take is that as citizens, we have a constitutional right to bring these servants to book, because even the president himself is our servant. He is our employee. So while they may use all sorts of intimidation and machinations to try to quell whatever misgivings, there is one thing that is sure, that anger within citizens can never be taken out by action of force or the use of guns, because I think the president knows that very well. He came to power because of the will of the people. They have kept him in power because of the will of the people. And he did not pay any money for that will of the people. If they draw it from him, it will be a disaster. I would not want to see President Museveni failing to live in this country after having led us successfully for all these years. And we have him exiled again just because of things he should have corrected from the very beginning.
Your concluding remark, Honorable Kalahanga.
Patrick, during Obote times as president, many Ugandans complained that the State House had been turned into a clearing house. And it was such a huge issue which went on for some time. We started mentioning this in the 9th Parliament, and it's only taking deep root. If you know that public servants are paid, and interestingly, these individuals, at least quite a number of them, are well paid. They're not just paid.
Some of the best paid.
Yes, some of the most, those who are on the top of the list of the best paid public servants. So when we see this happening, and it goes on, day in, day out, you are not just making a statement or just carrying out a single act. But you are busy telling Ugandans that it doesn't matter what you think or what your state is, or I can do what I want as long as I have the power. Now, this has to be us. We Ugandans, we have to stand up and say, look, and if it's parliament, yes, also correct it. Say, look, you are wrong here. So let's not in any way be seen to be complacent or compromise on principle simply because so and so has made a mistake or this one is making the other. So we need to come together as a nation and say, this is horrible enough. We need another page. And this is not even a nice way
a caller from Fort Portal said that we reap what we sow.
We reap what we sow.
Yeah.
That's true.
Is this it? This
yeah,
is it?
This is what we are sowing. But we can sow different seeds.
We're now reaping it.
This country has competent and men and women who can actually turn events of this country. We can open a new chapter. Unfortunately, this is not a nice way to begin a year, because we are just a few days in 2017. But we can turn this, if we correct this, we can all together say, including these individuals, and say, we are sorry, have back your money. And we will correct this, and we will set a precedent. And then other people can learn from it. We can build a better Uganda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gerard Karuhanga, Member of Parliament in Tungama Municipality. Thank you very much, Henry Mujisha. Thank you very much, Ramadan Govi. And thank you very much for all of you who have been a part of this. I think the discussion is going to continue and has been going on different social media forums, on television, on radio, and of course in the newspapers. So Ugandans are talking. We don't know where this is going to end, but maybe some people are going to be angry about the discussions. But what I know, whatever is being said here, it's not that because they hate you. I think it's because they love Uganda more. Good night, and God bless Uganda.